the only thing I can
Well,
do.
good evening. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Institute of Healthcare Management's GameChanger event. And this evening, we are so thrilled. This is a blockbuster in the making. We've got the fabulous Chelsea and Westminster Hospital, who are rightly very proud of their new ICU. But we're going to find out all about it and find out whether it is an authentic game changer for the rest of the NHS in the way it's been designed and delivered. And of course, it wouldn't be a game changer event without Roy Lilly in the chair. So Roy, I'm going to hand straight on to you.
John, thank you very much, and greetings and welcome to wherever you're listening, and hello Chelsea and Westminster. I'm in one side of London and they're on the other side. They're in the posh side and I'm in the East End, so that's where the money is. And like all conferences, you know, in the old days when we used to have proper conferences, there were always people coming in late, shuffling in at the back, weren't there? And someone would come in and the only seats would be down the front, and they put their heads down and they wiggle down the front, because if you put your head down, it makes you invisible in a crowd, doesn't it? We've all seen people doing that. So I'm just stalling for a bit of time, actually, while I know we're getting the Zoom equivalent of people getting in late and thinking, oh, I can't get the sound on, let me get my cup of tea ready. And I think, so we've given you probably about, I don't know, 45 seconds to get yourself organized. Is everybody organized out there in the world of Zoom? I expect we are. I'm going to start anyway because we've only got 45 minutes to show you some fantastic stuff. Now, Game Changers is a series that we were running before all this COVID thing turned up, and it was where I'd been and see things that I thought, you know what, this is different. These are people who are doing something that was fantastic, and these are people who are really changing the game. And we wanted so badly to broadcast from the Chelsea and Westminster. We were going to go there and broadcast live on Periscope, but because we can't do that now, so here we are on Zoom. So we've got Chelsea and Westminster on Zoom, and we've got my first two guests. We've got Tristan Hawkins, who's the Patient Experience Director. Give us a wave, Tristan, so the audience at home can see who you are. Well done, nice to see you, and thank you very much. And Rick Keys, who's the Director of Intensive Care. He's the one in the handmade, tailor-made scrubs, looking very elegant and look like he's just walked out of Holby City on the telly. So listen, guys, thank you very much. Are you both well? Are you okay? Have you been all right? Talk to me. Tristan, you okay?
Thank you.
Yeah, and your family been okay? You've been working? Yeah, that's good. Right, now listen, we're going to talk about ICU now. Of course, everybody knows about ICU at the moment. They've been gutted and shoved full of people, and more beds have been squeezed in than sardines. But actually, well, let's go back a bit in time. You changed your ICU and you went into designing a new unit. So we got a new ICU unit. I mean, is there anything really new about ICU? Is this really a game changer? So Tristan, just start us off on our tour of Chelsea and Westminster and tell us what is new to the new ICU. And I think the good thing is it was opened, was it within budget and ahead of time, which is a miracle anyway for the NHS. So that's a good place to start. So tell us, Tristan, what was different?
So yeah, I'll just give you a bit of history. So we started working on this project, I think it's about 6 years ago. I'm actually employed by the charity CW+. So with the hospital, back in, I think, was it 2015, we said, why don't we try and create something which is truly unique, which is world class. We knew that was going to cost more money, but we thought, well, if we can come up with a new model of care, we can perhaps look at some cost savings with some of the changes that we're making in the environment. It would be worth that investment. So the first thing I want to do is thank all of our donors and supporters that have worked with us on this journey. It wouldn't have been possible without them. So it's been a long project. One of the things that I did was look outside of the UK. So what was happening elsewhere in the world? What things could we work with in terms of great ICU, great design, and translate that into something that could work within the NHS? It was a very kind of involved and democratic process. We worked with the whole team. One of the things we did quite early on was we actually mocked up what we thought we wanted to build out of cardboard. We constructed a full-size room down the bottom of the hospital, and we basically played around with it, we experimented. We tried to avoid mistakes that often happen in capital projects where you build something and then you realise, actually, do you know what, it'd be much better if that door was there. The other thing that we did was work with lots of different teams. So obviously the ICU team were front and centre of that, but we involved lots of other people as well. And to give you an idea, in one of the groups that I brought in to work on the project, the dancers from Wrong Bed Dance. So looking at how people were moving, how people kind of passed through spaces. We had a filmmaker that just observed what was happening in the unit. We had a writer, we had musicians. So it's been a really kind of multidisciplinary team on the medical side, but also in other areas, quite artistic. Rick, do you just want to tell us about how it's changed in terms of size?
Yeah, so the old unit that we had was built 25 years ago, and that had 11 beds in it, with one side room, and we have now moved to this expanded unit, which when it's finally completed will be 20 beds. So that's a great increase in the amount of beds that we've got. The space, the actual footprint of it is increased as well, because since we've got new building recommendations that have come in for what is required for intensive care, the actual footprint of a room. So it's a huge space, and we've done some incredible things in terms of thinking about the ergonomics of it, how would somebody work in these rooms, not only the patient experience, but how can we make it better for the workers as well. So it's not just singularly patient focused. So for example, we have each room has smart glass on it. So in terms of the patient's dignity, we can switch the glass to opaque, and then switch it again so it's see-through. This helps in terms of lines of sight for the nursing staff. Also, one of the other things that we noticed in new build ICUs was that with this pressure to keep producing isolation rooms, is that nurses would go into these rooms and they would have to do a 12-hour shift. Just then, the patient, and obviously there would be relief breaks and things like that, but there was a sense that the nurses were actually experiencing, I guess what we might call cabin fever. So we added a few design elements in that would allow interaction between the nurse and staff whilst ensuring that the patient care stayed at the highest possible standard. So
it's really interesting. So sorry, there's a little delay on the line. So just to be sure, Rick, what we're saying. So the beds in the conventional sense, for people who are not familiar with ICU, I mean normally ICUs have got beds and then a row of kits and machines that go beep and all the rest of it, and then there's another lot. So these are in inverted commas rooms. Are they? Each one is an individual cubicle?
Yeah, that's right. So there's a single sliding door entrance into the room. They are side by side, so I'd like to, they're not little boxes. They've been designed much better than that, but they essentially...
Yeah, I get that. But I was interested in what you said about the glass. I mean, that's huge, very expensive glass, very posh, that is. But of course, there is always this issue about the nursing station, isn't there? And the observation. I went to one hospital. I won't tell you where it is because it embarrassed them. But the line of sight wasn't very good with it. I had to take some of this stuff out. So the design from the line of sight, you mentioned that is really important. I think also you made some changes. If I'm right in saying that the temperature monitoring and the air quality as well is monitored in each individual room. Is that right?
Yeah, that's correct. So we have a fairly sophisticated air handling unit and air conditioning, and we try and ensure the quality of the air within the environment is not only monitored, but we try and maintain it at a high standard. Noise levels, temperature levels, they're all controllable.
Yeah, and what about the lighting? Because I remember lighting is quite important, isn't it, in ICUs?
Absolutely. I mean, one of the things we know is that, once you've been seriously ill and you're on your path to recovery, your whole circadian rhythm, your day-night rhythm has been completely disrupted. You are still trying to get drugs out of your system, so there's always a risk, a very high risk of delirium. So your circadian rhythm is gone, you're likely to have a predisposition to delirium. So our lighting system here is controllable. We can actually maintain diurnal variations and light levels and actually even colour. So we can influence the colour within the room as well.
Yeah, I think the temperature of the light is really quite important as well. And I mean, we can't really talk about this without the experiences you've had recently, because I know the unit's been open and you've been using it for COVID patients. And I think you've done some clever things with the patients being able to talk to their relatives using tablets. Is that right?
Yes, I mean, one of the things that thankfully, the donors helped us with, again, fantastic, was to give us delivery of some Samsung Galaxy tablets. And this was really important during this period of time, because the trust policy, similarly to other trusts, was that relatives and friends could not visit the patient. So we had to have some way that the family could interact or could just see their relative, because obviously, it was a heart-rending situation for families, and we had one.
Yeah, and huge emotional pressure for the staff as well, working under those pressures. Listen, Tristan and Rick, I could talk to you guys all evening about it, because I know there's a lot you want to tell me, but unfortunately we've only got 45 minutes. And we're going to switch now to our next contributor. So can I say thank you to you? We'll give you a metaphorical round of applause and say very politely, get off, because we've got our two next guests coming in. Alice Sisson is coming in. She's an ICU consultant and anaesthetist. I think she's just approaching the microphone. Is that your Alice, aren't you? Yes, of course you are. Alice, and we've got your colleague Ahmed Al-Windawi, who's an intensive care registrar and eye tracking technology lead. Wow. Well, we'll get on to that in a minute, because I have no idea what that is, but it sounds like it's good. So, Alison, so the patient care experience, it's the heart of everything, of course. The environment has a real impact on the patient. Tell me how you've noticed how the recovery has changed by this new environment, this new approach.
So, as Rick was saying, the room has made a massive difference to how we're able to care for the patients. So, because the footprint of the room is double the size of in our old unit bed areas, we find that when the patients become first unwell and need to come to critical care, they're in a state where they're in the acute phase of their illness. They need multiple interventions. They often need multiple members of staff.
Alison, can I just stop you there for 1 second? Can I ask you just to go over and speak into the other microphone, because I think we got a little technical. Just leave that one there. Just go over there and shove Ahmed out of the way. Give him the elbow for a minute, and we'll bring him in again. So I'm sorry to be a pain, but because what you're talking about is so important, and we want to hear it clearly. So just start again for us.
No, not at all. So when patients first come to intensive care, and are critically unwell, we find that in that initial stage of their patient experience, that they often need multiple members of staff coming to look after them. They need procedures doing. And what we found in these larger rooms is, because the footprint is essentially double the size in our old ICU, staff are much more able to provide that care to the patient. They're more manoeuvrability around the patient, more able to carry out procedures and look after the patient. Particularly with COVID, patients have needed interventions such as proning, which is turning them from lying on their back to lying on their tummy, and you need up to 7 people to carry out those procedures with them. So the room space itself has made that much more possible. The lighting in the room has made a difference for the clinicians, because we can switch between the types of lighting. And then as the patient journey progresses and they become more into a plateau or into a recovery phase, then the new unit's helped with that. It's helped with the circadian rhythms of the lighting again. It's helped with things that occur, technology that's been around for a long time but needs to be utilised properly. So things like having soft closing bins, minimising noise, particularly keeping noise and light levels down at night. So having monitors and ventilators that have night modes, that have alarms that can be quieter at night, that have screen brightness that's dimmed automatically at night. Technology like that being utilised really nicely in this unit. We also really have things
and can I just ask you, Alice, I mean, I think the average length of stay in ICU is like 3 to 5 days, something like that. With the COVID patients, some of them are like 12 days or perhaps even more. And that leaves them with the patients with a huge post-traumatic stress. I don't know whether it's a proper PSD, but it leaves a real fingerprint on them, doesn't it? Having been in ITU for such a long time, ICU for such a long time. What's your view of how this environment and this approach has made it beneficial to patients?
So I think that environmentally we try to reduce the risks of post-traumatic stress, post-traumatic anxiety by reducing delirium, reducing risk factors for delirium, which Ahmed will talk a bit more about identifying and reducing delirium, but also by maintaining circadian rhythms, day and night differentiation, by maintaining contact, as Rick was saying, with family members, by having patients orientated, so being able to have a rehabilitation board with goals and aims for the day, and keeping normality as much as possible.
I think that's really interesting. Right, reach out now with your right hand and drag Ahmed back to the microphone, wherever he is. Bring him back. No, leave the microphone, and that's it. Right, and Adam's going to come in, I think, and make that microphone a bit taller, and that's probably okay. Ahmed, good afternoon, and thank you very much for talking to us. I want you to tell me, what is eye tracking for delirium? This is really interesting. I'm sure lots of ICU people watching know, but I don't, so spell it out for me.
Delirium has traditionally been quite difficult to diagnose on intensive care. You can imagine a patient who's been asleep and sedated for a long time. A combination of the disease, the environment, and what's happened to them and the drugs can cause a concoction that can make them confused. And traditionally it's been quite difficult to diagnose that. So the normal methods of diagnosing delirium in intensive care are quite laborious. It requires a nurse to do a test on the patient that they do twice a day. And it's quite sensitive and quite specific, but it's quite time critical for nurses to do that. So the idea behind the eye tracking is to try and automate that, try and have it continuous throughout the day and night, and to try and make it as specific and as sensitive as the laborious manual tests that the nurses do.
And there's a long-term issue here, isn't there, about the cognitive impairment and so on. How does the eye tracking work? Is it a computer or a machine? Explain to me how it works.
So I've developed our own eye tracker. The reason we've done that is because traditional eye trackers, you need cooperation to calibrate them. Calibration involves kind of a two-way street. You have to look at certain points for a certain amount of time. But if you can do that, then almost by definition, you're not delirious. So we've developed our own camera-based system that sits at the end of the bed and uses artificial intelligence with about 4 or 5 neural networks that then identify the gaze and direction of the patient's eye, and does that about 60 times a second.
So, and is that on all the time?
At the moment, we're hoping to run a feasibility study coming up in the next couple of weeks. And we're only going to be doing it around the time the laborious test is run. So for 10 minutes, twice a day. The future goal is to have that running continuously.
And what about the posture of the patient? Do they have to be elevated, or can it be done when they're lying down?
As long as they can see their face, it doesn't really matter. Part of our bundle of care is in reducing complications of intensive care. So there are kind of spot upright for about 30 degrees. So we've kind of calibrated it so it's about 30 degrees, but it can work in any kind of posture.
Yeah. Okay, and let's get Alice back in. Where is she? She disappeared. Come back in, Alice. Stay there, Ahmed. We can look at you both. And from the what about the nursing perspective, working in this environment? I know you've got sort of quite a lot of bed space, but it's been, you know, a hugely busy time. I mean, I know these units weren't really built for COVID, but I would imagine that this is sort of pressure tested the whole system beyond any limits that you ever thought you'd have to use it for.
Well, from the nurse point of view, I think that Charlie will be able to talk more about how the nurses have experienced.
Yes, let's leave that for Charlie. But just tell, I mean, this must have really pressure tested the system beyond anything that you really planned for.
I think that COVID's tested every hospital system, everybody's ICU, the system from A&E to the wards, right the way through to intensive care.
Is there anything that you've discovered now that actually you would change or do differently? Has it come through this test well?
I think we as an ICU have come through the test well. I think everybody's tired. I think that we're very much looking forward to the rest of the beds on the new unit being open and being able to enjoy the increased space.
Well, and you've gone from 11 beds to 20 beds. How many did you have operating when the COVID thing was at its height?
At our maximum, we accommodated 32 intensive care patients in the hospital.
Well, that's a huge jump, isn't it? Well done for coping with that. Again, I could talk to you for a lot longer, but I can't because I've got an eye on the time. And I'm going to, again, very politely with my big hook you off and perhaps ask Charlie and Gary to join us. So thank you again, a big metaphorical round of applause, and thank you both very much. And exit stage left, all right, I'm not sure which. There she is, that's Charlie, she's wandering around the back. We've got Charlie and Gary. Charlie, good afternoon. You're the adult ICU expansion lead. I love that title. Is it the adult that's expanding or the ICU?
The ICU is expanding. The title was actually my own that was given to me because it was quite hard to describe what I do. So I'm a very senior nurse. I've got about 25 years intensive care experience. And the process of starting with the architects of turning from I want a new ITU to a finished build involves somebody telling everybody where things need to go. So you get given originally a data sheet that tells you how many plug sockets and how many medical gas outlets you need. You then have to say where you want them to go, which is really where my experience of knowing what happens at a bed space every day came in. So I was the person that said where we need to put things and also slightly challenged the conventional design. If you went to an architect and then you go to people who supply things like the medical gas connectors, you might be able to see behind us here, which is where all the plug sockets and medical gas outlets are. They would tell you that a patient faces the door. They would tell you that the ventilator's always on the right side of the bed and the fluid pump's always on the left side of the bed, and there are really strict rules. And we've got these massive windows that you can probably see behind us. And then we have a glazed door onto the corridor. And so it seemed far more logical to put the patient sort of horizontally, so the window is to one side of them and the glass door is to the other. And therefore, to enable it to work best meant saying, no, actually the ventilator needs to be on the side of the window, because when we rehabilitate patients, we want to get them out of bed. And who wants to get out of bed and sit on the side of the corridor when you could sit on the side of the bed where this amazing window is? So that kind of challenged that. We also wanted to make sure that there was kind of relatives that often spend quite considerable amounts of time visiting a patient and feel a bit awkward sometimes that they're sort of invading this kind of medical space. So again, we wanted to make the window feel like it was somewhere that the family were very welcome and that they could be. So much more of the stuff the staff need to interact with is on the side by the corridor. So the monitor that we need to change things on or to look at settings, to make adjustments, the ventilator control screen. So the part of the ventilator that breathes for the patient is next to the window because that needs rehabilitation. But the part of the ventilator that we have to control the settings, so things like the amount of oxygen or the breath rate and things like that, are right by the door. So the clinician comes in and wants to make a change, they do that straight away, and without having to sort of nudge relatives out of the way or to get things. So there's
climb over the bed. Yeah, yeah. That's really good. Yeah, you said we just missed because there's a little delay on the line, Charlie. So you said, how long have you been working in ICU?
About 25 years.
Really? I'm going to say what all old men say, you don't look old enough, but there you are. Right, but who does look old enough? Well, Gary looks old enough. It looks like he's got lots of experience. Gary, good afternoon to you. You're a respiratory physician. I mean, you've been at the heart of the COVID thing, haven't you? You know, we're all learning now about ventilating and whether or not we want a CPAP or what's the best way to ventilate. We're all experts on this now. From a respiratory physician's point of view, how was your requirement designed into this new environment? How have you found it working?
So as far as respiratory was concerned, a lot of the work was to take the patients that didn't quite require intensive care. We used a lot of CPAP, we used a lot of oxygen therapy, and we also took the step downs from ICU. So as the patients got better from ICU and were able to be discharged, often they could be put onto CPAP and looked after on the respiratory ward. So it's a matter of it being a seamless process to get the patients from ED to the appropriate place, whether that be intensive care, respiratory, or more of a rehabilitation ward.
That's interesting. And I think your facilities now at the Chelsea and Westminster allow you to do remote monitoring as well. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so we've been working with a number of partners on remote monitoring, and we've done a trial at the hotel where we were working with Heathrow Airport, so we were looking at remote monitoring there and taking some of the work that we'd already done within the hospital and taking it into a more remote area. And that allowed us to keep an eye on people who otherwise would only get intermittent contact with people.
So how does that work then, Gary? Is that, what is it, Bluetooth or into Wi-Fi, or how does it work?
So it's a patch that's worn on the chest, which measures some of their physiological parameters, and then that's fed through a Wi-Fi system back to a central monitor. This allows it to alarm, to tell us if anything changes, and then people could be contacted directly if things go outside the parameters that we set.
It's really interesting. And Charlie, I mean, the question I've got to ask you is, what would you have done differently?
There's actually not a lot. I mean, we haven't had a chance to fully test how the space is working because unfortunately we haven't had relatives able to visit. So this idea of how it works for relatives, we haven't really had a chance. But the feedback overall from staff has been enormously positive. I mean, we went from such a tiny sort of crowded area, and that even for COVID, actually, we had to sort of box off and create artificial side rooms for infection and control reasons, to suddenly come into somewhere that was light filled when staff are doing a sort of 12-hour shift and they're stuck on the unit the whole time. And we also did a lot of other things with like our staff room is amazing because again, on that 12, 13-hour shift that staff are on, even when they get a break, they don't get to get off the floor, they don't get to get off this area and stuff. So again, making sure we had all of that. So there's not a lot I've changed so far. I'm really pleased with how it's turned out.
Well, I think that's absolutely terrific. Now, I don't know how many of the team are still there because I can only see what's on screen, but I'm assuming that Tristan is still there. Is Tristan still there? Can he come in and chat? Yeah, I think we can get three in the show. Is Tristan still there?
He is. I'll come back and get his microphone.
Yeah, come and stand in there together. You can all crowd in. I suppose we're not doing social distancing, and people are going to write to me and tell me.
trying.
And it is a hospital. Tristan, I mean, a lot of research and what have you went into designing the new unit. Did you look at ICUs in anywhere else? I mean, Charlie was telling us, you know, all the years of experience that she had that went into the design. Where else did you look at to get the design for the new Chelsea and Westminster facility?
I think, yeah, I mean, I've worked on ICUs previously, so I was involved in a big redevelopment down in Derriford, in Plymouth, a 60-bed unit. So I think, you know, it's so easy to research places now through the internet, but physically, one of the places that's kind of stuck in my mind was in Utrecht in Holland. You know, that won an American Citation Design Award, so it was recognised as being one of the best ICUs in Europe. So we distilled some of the things that they have there, but also I think we've gone a step further. So one of the things, you know, we haven't mentioned and will be opening soon is we have a garden. So I've been looking at the effect of kind of biophilia and connection with nature on ICU patients, but also for family members as well, because as Charlie mentioned, you know, patients will be here, but they'll often be here with their families who can be here for many weeks. So the effect that has on loved ones can be huge. So we have a garden which is connected to the ICU. That'll be a space that you can relax in, but it can also be used for mobilisation and rehabilitation. I think the other point is that we have a lot of data we've been gathering, so we've been measuring all of these environmental factors like noise, air quality, light, and temperature for about 3 years. So now what we're going to see is, well, what's the difference? So overlaying that environmental data with the clinical outcomes in the old unit versus the new. And I'm pretty confident that, you know, Ahmed was talking about delirium, that we'll see a reduction in the number of patients developing delirium.
It's a really important factor. There's something else that occurs to me as well is children. I mean, this is not a paediatric unit. I'm not suggesting it is, but quite a lot of people who are in ICU for a while will have young relatives as well. You know, they want to come and see dad or granddad. How have you thought about that?
Well, I think we've gone a step further. So one of the things is pets. You know, so if I've got a cat and I'm in an ICU and I can't bring my cat into the ICU, but with the garden area, you know, we do anticipate being able to bring in pets into that environment, and we know that can have a huge impact. Similarly, you know, patients passing away. Unfortunately, that does all happen from time to time, and it's been something that's happened in the past. How can we take people into a different environment? They might want to be outside, pass away, and spend time with their family in a non-clinical environment. So having different types of spaces so close to the ICU is going to be really valuable. The other thing is, you know, front of house, we've got really good facilities now for families while waiting. They could be in the room, which is the room I'm standing in at the moment, but it's really beautiful space from outside in the reception area. And they can do simple things like a cup of tea and coffee, which, you know, previously we couldn't do that, but now we can.
Yeah, it's a real holistic thing, isn't it? If someone's in those sort of circumstances, you have to think about treating the whole family. It's not just about treating the patient in the bed. That's really interesting. Is Rick still there? Rick Keys, has he gone home? He's standing in the queue at Sainsbury's. There you go, Rick. I thought you'd gone off to wait in the queue at Sainsbury's to get. I know that you studied, you did a lot of research before this was developed. I just wondered, will you be sharing the research and the outcome of the work that you're doing here to help other people design fabulous ICUs like yours?
For sure. I think that's one of our guiding missions, really, is to do a before and after. So Tristan was talking about the air quality, the sound levels. Alice was talking about manipulating the visual environment by having night modes on the monitors and the lighting. Each consultant has actually taken these various areas as specialist areas, and we're definitely going to do a before and after. Once we get the full unit, and once we get the full 20 beds, and once we get past the pandemic that's been occupying us.
Yeah, well,
Yes, for sure.
Let's hope we don't have a second peak and you're all tested again, which is a horrifying thought. Where's Alice? Let's get Alice back. Where is she? Have you had Alice? You can hear me. I'm thinking. Yeah. Hi. Thank you for not going home. Tell me I mean, so much of this focus is on the patient experience. Have you spoken to patients who've been through your ICU? What are their comments? Have they been complimentary, or that they just perhaps don't know the difference? They've been so ill.
Well, they don't know the difference between whether they've been on the new unit or the old unit. But they know that they've been critically unwell, and we try and follow up patients with our psychologists on the ward after they've been stepped down and with some of the other therapists. We're finding that following COVID infection particularly, patients have multiple physical and cognitive or psychological problems that need continuing support. And I think that's being addressed on a London-wide level, with an aim to follow up patients more, particularly COVID patients following their ICU stay.
Yeah, the job isn't over, is it, when the job is over? Well, I guess we're all learning a huge amount. Thank you very much for this. Where's Charlie? Let's get Charlie back. Where is she?
Looking out of shot. Hi.
Hello, Charlie. I like this. We should have you all on a carousel and be able to spin you around. I was going to ask you, I mean, nurses are severe critics of everything. How have your colleagues adapted, and what have they been saying about the experience of working in your new 5-star ICU?
It's all been very positive. One of the sort of downsides of the job that I've had is nobody notices good design. So when things are in the right place, you don't notice it. You notice the things that aren't where you want them to be. So to them, it seems seamless and effortless that this is kind of okay and working well. But it is such an enormous contrast. The rooms are twice the size of the old one. The difference is sort of chalk and cheese. And I'll say that 5-star apartment is something that's been made by people, both staff and a few of the patients who are getting to the point of being well enough. Some of them are even reluctant to go to the wards, because unfortunately some of our wards aren't quite to this standard, so it feels like, although for us we know it's a really positive step, for them, they feel a little bit like, oh,
I'm so sorry that I wasn't able to come and visit it. I know Gary's standing by. Gary, you come into the microphone, because I think we're going to go over to John, who's got 1 or 2 questions for us. And Gary, you can help me direct the questions to the most appropriate person. So John, fire away.
Thank you, Roy. Well, we've had a great audience this evening. One question that's come up: what advice would you give to an A&E unit elsewhere in the country looking to start an upgrade process? What would be one thing that you would want to impress?
Is that an A&E unit or an ICU unit?
Sorry, I'm so sorry, an ICU unit. Sorry, my mind was preoccupied with another project there for a moment.
I think one of the first things is to make sure that the team you've got to do it are the right team. Make sure that you've got the clinicians involved, nurses, doctors, therapists, everyone. And, you know, potentially to have a Tristan as well, which always helps. I think that...
And I think also, I mean, this has been a very expensive exercise, hasn't it? I haven't asked you what the budget was for it. I haven't asked you if you overrun the budget, but this is not the kind of project really that's perhaps possible for every hospital because of the cost constraints.
Yeah, I'm glad you didn't ask either of those questions. Charlie's probably the best person to tell on that. But
yeah. The comments I would have is that we've had some really nice luxury extras that the charity have enabled us to have. But the big thing that's important is the size and the space and how you utilise that space. And all of it, not just the bed spaces, but all of your support spaces. So if you were designing an ITU, like I say, it's about getting the right people in a room to discuss it and to laboriously go over what individually your expectations are of those spaces so that you're working together as a group and you understand who's going to need office space, who's going to want to use a seminar room, what facilities you're going to want to have in that, how big a waiting room you need, how many visitors you have coming, all those things that you get the right amount of space for it. I mean, there are very strong guidance in the health building notes that give recommendations on what the size of the space should be. So everyone sort of should now be designing rooms that are the size that we've got. not necessarily with the wonderful glazing that we've got, but for the size. And it's getting all of those people, not too many, but a representative from each of the MDT.
Yeah, that seems to me to be at the heart of this and the heart of really every change mechanism that there is. People love change if they think they're in charge and they can be part of change and consulting. So I guess the answer is, well, yeah, the money is the money, but the real trick here is consulting with the people who are going to be using the facility, and that's you've obviously nailed that. I just wonder if we could just quickly, I don't know, we're probably coming up to the buffers of time. Let's get Rick, is Rick still there? Let's get Rick back in quickly and just to ask, is there anything, Rick, that you've learned during the COVID experience that you're going to incorporate in your new ICUs when this gets back to normal?
Yes, we've learned a lot, actually. I think that in common with a lot of our hospitals, we're sort of the Spitfire generation. You know, we were waiting to be scrambled for day after day after day. So we've learned a lot. I think that when this disease hit us in the UK, we were relying on knowledge that was acquired in China, in Italy, but we were still, in knowledge terms, down there. The UK experience and the continuing global experience of it has led us to make changes in the way that we treat people. We've recognised that we need that this is a long ITU disease. It's not just, you know, patients come to intensive care for a week, 10 days. We know that they're here for 3, 4, 5 weeks, even longer. So that was something that wasn't particularly well known when we first started off this experience. So yes, we've learned a lot.
Yeah, it's really interesting. Well, look, I'm sorry, folks, we're up against the buffers of time. Can we get you all in one shot? Let's get everybody together. Let's get Ahmed and Gary and Charlie and everybody back in the pic. There you are. Step forward. That's it. Andy's widening the shot for us very nicely. Well, listen, thank you so much for spending some time with us on Game Changers. I've found it fascinatingly interesting. I hope that when all this is over, this is going to be one of my first visits when I'm finally, I'm too old to go out now, and my worry is that it's going to go on for so long that I'm going to be too old to want to go out when it's all over. But if they finally ever unlock me, I'd like to come and make you my first port of call. I think that what you've done is terrific. I just love Ahmed's the eye tracking for delirium. I think that's in itself, it's a game changer. I think the way you've approached the design, Charlie with her consultation, with everybody focusing on the patient experience, which of course, you know, it's so easy to lose the importance of the patient experience in a project like this. And clearly you've hung on to that, and the consultation, of course, talking to colleagues to make it all work. So can I just say on behalf of the IHM and everyone watching this evening, thank you so much. Is it a game changer? Well, absolutely, it is a game changer. And I hope that you provided some inspiration and some ideas for everyone watching. So thank you for what you've done. Thank you particularly for what you've all done during the COVID experience, above and beyond, absolutely. Thursday nights will always be different because it'll be the night we all get out and clap, and I'm going to do a special one for you this week. So thank you all very much. And if you've been watching, I hope you found it interesting. Give us all a wave, Chelsea and Westminster, because we're going to wave goodbye. Thank you all for that. I'm going to hand back to John.
Thank you, Roy. Yeah, I just echo Roy's comments. Thank you to the team at Chelsea and Westminster. Inspiring stuff. And we look forward to being able to take some of the key learning that you've developed and share that around for members in elsewhere in the country. For those of you wondering, well, what's next for the IHN? Well, on Monday next week, we have the fabulous Shirley Crammer, OBE, doing a retrospective as she steps down as Chief Executive of the Royal Society of Public Health. So we much look forward to that. If you're interested in other stuff that the IHM can be doing for you right now, well, don't wonder. Join the IHM. You can do so for free and get all of the content that we make available to our members for free until the end of July. So why not take advantage of that? Just go to the IHM website.
There's
Right,
one more thing, if I may. Can we just say a big thank you to Andy, who's been the technician for us at the Chelsea and Westminster. Thanks, Andy, for making it all work. And from me and from John, best wishes to you all, and thank you and good night.